It's as if someone emailed an assignment to every news desk in America this morning saying, you're assigned to take Trump's comments about the auto industry, take them dramatically out of context, pretend that he is planning a violent insurrection, lie to the American people, deceive them through omission by grabbing one word, bloodbath, two words, depending on how you write it, taking that out of context and deceiving people once again. We're in campaign season, guys. Look at this montage.
Former President Trump's campaign now on the defensive after his fiery rhetoric at a rally in Dayton, Ohio on Saturday night. Trump warning while discussing the economy that there would be a, quote, bloodbath if he is not reelected in November. This after the former president kicked off the event by paying tribute to those who attacked the U.S. Capitol on January 6th.
He really was talking about the auto industry, but then went into a comment saying that there would be a bloodbath in the country if he wasn't reelected in November.
And warned of a, quote, bloodbath if he loses in November.
The Biden campaign seized on this moment, slamming Trump, who at a rally in Ohio said this after talking about tariffs on Chinese-made cars.
Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath.
Biden's campaign firing back.
What I heard was a continuation of the same rhetoric, the same endorsement of political violence that we've seen from Donald Trump for years.
Former President Donald Trump is taking heat for the language that he used at a rally in Ohio over the weekend, including his warning about what will happen if he does not win the election.
We're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars if I get elected. Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath.
If you watch his comments in context, which I'm about to show, it's very clear that this was about the auto industry and only about the auto industry. But each one of these reports groups those comments about a bloodbath in with his comments about January 6th prisoners, kind of leading Americans to feel that his bloodbath comments are about creating another January 6th, maybe a bloodier one. And it's very deceptive. But you'll notice that this last clip that I showed from CBS, the anchor Anne-Marie Green, you could tell it bothers her how misleading this anchor script is. And you'll notice as she tosses to the reporter, she ad-libs some truth. And I give huge credit to Anne-Marie Green for ad-libbing the truth in there. That is what you should do if you're an anchor forced with some deceptive news. You should do what she does right here.
I should clarify with that little bit that we used from the president when he said any car that comes across the line. He's talking about cars that are being imported from outside of the United States to be sold here. We would essentially double the price by the time it gets to the consumer. And then he goes on to talk about a bloodbath if he doesn't win.
You can see from headlines like this one from NBC, quote, Trump says there will be a bloodbath if he loses the election. Or all of these headlines. This is just a Google search today. Trump defends bloodbath comment. Biden campaign releases feature on Trump bloodbath. Trump seeks to fundraise off of bloodbath. Donald Trump doubles down on his deranged bloodbath comments. Trump ramps up dark rhetoric in Ohio. Trump's bloodbath tirade contains a warning on Chinese cars. Bloodbath remarks give Trump a new firestorm. The sheer magnitude of this talking point memo that was somehow sent to the media, every media member today and yesterday, to suddenly overhype one word or two words, depending on how you write it. It sends a message to the American people, wow, there must be something to, he really must be planning an insurrection. Why else would bloodbath be such a big deal? Now, let me show his bloodbath remarks in full context. Shout out to News Now from Fox for actually showing the full context. Here it is.
We're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars if I get elected. Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories. A friend of mine, all he does is build car manufacturing plants. He's the biggest in the world. I mean, honestly, I joke about it. He can't walk across the street, and that way he's like Biden. But for building...
All right, you're just listening in there to what he said unfiltered there as a lot of headlines.
Glad to see news now from Fox showing the full context. You can see it's only about cars. Now, if you look at just the headlines alone and the magnitude of the hype on the term bloodbath itself, and then you look at the anchor scripts alone, it's very lockstep that Trump seems to be an insurrectionist again. And of course, the Biden campaign is pushing that narrative. They have the big incentive to win against Trump. When you get into the news reporters, the reporter packages, they're including the Republican side. They're also including interviews with Biden's people saying that he is an insurrectionist. This is a plan for a bloody insurrection. Which when you watch it in context, it's clear that's not the case. So here's some of the context that reporters added, which I loved to see, but you've got to be a committed news viewer and get into the full context to see what this is really about.
That's going to be the least of it.
Trump's campaign pushing back, saying he was only talking economics, writing Joe Biden's insane EV mandate will slaughter the American auto industry. Even Mike Pence, who says he will not endorse his former boss, coming to Trump's defense.
The president was clearly talking about the impact of imports devastating the American automotive industry.
Was that clear to you? Because it was a little muddled.
It was.
But it was his use of the word bloodbath during a riff about Chinese car makers that's creating new headlines and headaches for his campaign.
We're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
The Biden campaign seizing on the remark and rejecting the Trump campaign's claim that it was about only cars.
The idea that they're going to be able to spin their way out of this today is ridiculous, because every single day Donald Trump is promoting and endorsing and encouraging political violence on the stump.
Elected Republicans largely shrugging off the comment, including Mr. Trump's former VP turned rival Mike Pence.
For the average just drive-by news consumer who's glancing at headlines, you're probably going to take away that Trump is pushing a violent insurrection narrative, which is pretty unfortunate. So we'll keep a close eye on the corporate media spin as we head into campaign season. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe and comment. Thanks.